Hello and welcome to the NASCAR News Zone, the show we take you for all the biggest stories in the world of stock cars right now. This week we take a look at NASCAR's pre-season test at North Wilkesboro. Jimmie Johnson and Tony Stewart have both confirmed race entries for 2026. And of course, the chase is back. The playoffs are officially gone. We go through all that and a whole lot more in today's show. If you're watching on YouTube, skip to the timestamp in the video description below to watch the story that you're most interested in. So, without further delay, let's dive in. Seven-time NASCAR Cup champion Jimmie Johnson is well aware that you can't please every fan of NASCAR, and that is an understatement for sure. But something that most NASCAR fans can probably agree upon is that the playoff format, the championship format, has not been the best for quite some time now. The playoff format just is not doing it for a lot of people. Last year, of course, we got Kyle Larson winning the championship, which most people, I think, were relatively okay with. But 2024 and Joey Logano, yeah, not so much. Not many people were happy about that. Nothing against Joey personally, but yeah, he was far from the best driver throughout that season. But he was the best driver at the right times when he needed to be. And that is what won him the title. And there is a big change to the format when it comes to the playoffs because NASCAR has announced the departure of its win and in elimination style championship format and the reintroduction of the chase. I have said this for years, guys. I have said that back in my day, NASCAR was better. It just was. The chase is back after all this time. I am so happy. It's not perfect, and I'll get onto that at the end, don't worry. But I think this is really, really positive for NASCAR overall. And I think pretty much everybody will agree it is better. It is not perfect, but it's better than what we had before. Now, some people wanted to go back to the old days where there was no postseason effectively. Every single NASCAR Cup Series event counts the same no matter what. The problem with that, though, was the fact that you could have it where the last race of the season was not the championship decider. And in theory, you can get that with the chase, although it's very unlikely. We did get some examples, I think, back in the day, what was it, 2009, where Jimmie Johnson pretty much had the championship wrapped up against Mark Martin before the final round at Homestead, but he did not have it 100% confirmed. So there was still a championship decider at the final race, although a downside of going from the playoff format to this is that you won't necessarily have it. But if you were to have it in the old style, where it was always the same for every single race, there is no postseason, no chase, then you probably will get a few races at the end of the calendar year that don't really mean anything. It's just pride, to be honest. Depends how competitive NASCAR is, of course. That is not always going to be the case, but sometimes it would be, without a doubt. Out of 5 seasons, I reckon you probably get 3 where it's already wrapped up before the final round. But let me know your thoughts on that. In the comments below. And Johnson has been very complimentary. And Johnson has been very complimentary about this change, calling NASCAR, quote, brave and making a big decision. He then went on to explain, quote, I am of course fond of the system. I won so many championships with it. As I look at it, I think there's been a lot of thought and attention behind this, and I think it's the next evolution of our point system. We are trying to solve that for a lot of things, and it's really tough to make everybody happy. But again, the intentionality behind this point system and bringing it back to the championship that does reward consistency feels closer to home of what our sport was founded on. End quote. So effectively, instead of it being the playoffs where there are different stages, the third race of the playoffs is the round of 16, round of 12 is the next 3, and then round of 8 is the 3 after that, and then you've got the final championship decider, which is always at Phoenix pretty much, although that's changing again for 2026, back to Homestead. With the chase, it is different because you've got those 10 rounds at the end of the season still, but they all count equally from that point. It resets after the first 26 rounds for the top drivers. Now, I do believe, I'm sure back in the day when it was the chase, it was the top 12 in the championship went through to the chase. I do believe it's still the top 16, so it is expanded. Although, again, correct me if I'm wrong on that one. I haven't found confirmation of that 100%. But yeah, the win and your in system is gone. So only the top 16 go through. So you won't have a Shane Van Gisbergen in there, for example, if he finishes, 25th overall in the regular season, even if he's won 3 races, if he's not been consistent enough in those first 26 rounds, then he won't make it. And I think that's positive, to be honest. I do understand that if you win, it's important you want all the winning drivers in there, but At the same time, I also don't think it's fair that someone that has been overall more consistent throughout the season misses out. NASCAR should reward consistency, not winning outright. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. The chase is back. The playoffs are gone. I want to hear what you have to say on this as always. Like I said, for me, great news personally. But should NASCAR have gone back to the old days? I want to hear what you have to say either way on this one.
With the reintroduction of the chase format into NASCAR Cup Series competition and the other two major NASCAR series, this is a major shift in championship formats. Gone are the days of eliminations, one race win and you're a champion, resets of points during the playoff itself. This will be a straight 10 race playoff or chase format in the Cup Series, 9 in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and 7 in the Craftsman Truck Series. An article that came out recently emphasized some of the Cup drivers that are on the positive side of that, and a couple of entries that would be on the opposite side. They emphasized William Clyde Elliott II, also known as Chase Elliott, who was a 2020 Cup Series champion, 10 seasons of average finish better than, with 7 of them being average finish better than 13th over the season, and at least 19 top 10 finishes, with only one season where he had an average finish lower than 15th. Only 3 wins in the last 3 years, but of course he's always a factor. Drives for Hendrick Motorsports. He's not going to go away. And you're just around the corner, and there's plenty of tracks where he can do very, very well at. Christopher Bell, who's also been very, very consistent, especially once he became a Joe Gibbs Racing driver. Tied for the most top 10 finishes with Kyle Larson, and won 4 races. He has never averaged fewer than 16 top 10 finishes in 5 seasons of Joe Gibbs, and at least 19 over the past 4 seasons. So those are 2 guys that you usually see at the front of the pack anyways every single week, and they're usually factors to win races, including getting top 10 finishes, and that of course is where this format with the 10 race playoff or chase will emphasize consistency once again. They point out Joey Logano, who has utilized the playoff format to his advantage, most notably in 2024 when he won the championship, when he was, I think, 15th in points at the end of the year. The win and then also win or finish ahead of the other 3 drivers played a role for him. But I mean, he's a 3-time Cup Series champion. He worked with the format that was there. He's a capable driver that over time has been able to be consistent, but in the previous format that wasn't as big of an emphasis. We'll see if the veteran leader of Penske Racing can change it up to go and add to his championship haul and become a 4-time Cup Series champion. The other emphasis will be on, for those who losing out in a sense, would be the smaller teams that when you think about win and you get in, like at a road course, like at a super speedway, those opportunities aren't there. Having to perform on a week-to-week basis is asking a lot more from some of those outfits, but it also puts an emphasis on having to focus on all areas of your team to be able to compete, so that you're able to be in a position to win a Cup Series championship. So we will see how that all goes and see what driving changes may take place as we move forward into this 2026 Cup Series season. 2 major announcements coming from 7-time NASCAR champion Jimmie Johnson in regards to his involvement in NASCAR events in 2026. First, he will take the open exemption provisional to guarantee himself a spot in the Daytona 500. A year ago, he finished third in the Great American Race. He's a two-time winner of this race. Of course, 7-time NASCAR champion, 83 wins in his career, 5 consecutive championships. Now, one of the key players and main owner that when everyone talks about Legacy Motor Club, they say that's Jimmie's team, and it is. He will be in the Daytona 500, guaranteeing 3 Legacy Motor Club Toyota Camry XSEs in the race. After finishing third last year, trying to get that third Daytona 500 would be huge for a car that is a part-time car, at least for now. We don't know what's going to happen with the likes of, say, Corey Haim. But for Jimmie Johnson, he's guaranteed. That's a provisional that was used by Helio Castroneves last year when he came over to do the Daytona 500 with Trackhouse Racing. The rules of said provisional have changed to where you have to go and sign up for it prior to the race weekend, compared to falling back on that option like the Castroneves Trackhouse Racing did with Wendy's and everything in last year. When he had issues in qualifying, not being able to be one of the 2 fastest, and then had a wreck in his dual qualifying race. Secondly, for Jimmie, he will compete at San Diego, which he was already going to compete in the Cup Series race there, but he's also going to compete in the Truck Series event for Tricon Garage. Along with his longtime sponsor Carvana, driving the number 1 truck, which Tricon has ran a variety of drivers last year. They consider that their star trucks, so you'll see young guns, you'll also see legends like Jimmie Johnson. So for 7-time, he will be competing, doing double duty that weekend at his home race on Naval Base Coronado in San Diego. He spoke very much about how he wanted to be a part of that weekend because it's close to home. It's his an opportunity, of course, with the 250th year of the United States of America, the anniversary of the USA. This year, it's a huge opportunity and moment in that sense as well. And Jimmie has shown that his love of veterans and the military over the years when he drove for the 48 car and Hendrick Motorsports. But this takes a different path just because he's the owner, it's his team, it's his home town. So looking forward to seeing Jimmie Johnson this year in a couple of major races. In a time of many firsts for the Ram and Colleague Racing program, another first will take place with Tony Stewart, the legendary Hall of Fame racer, driving a truck for the first time at Daytona after winning 19 races in both Cup and Xfinity and IROC at the World Center of Racing. But this will be his first opportunity in a truck for Colleague in the free agent number 25 Ram coming up here in a few weeks' time. This will be the first time he's been in a truck series since 2005. It'll also be his first major NASCAR start since his retirement in 2016. Tony was quoted as saying, "I've raced just about everything with 4 wheels at Daytona, but never a truck. So when a seat in the new Ram was offered up for the first race back in NASCAR, I didn't hesitate. Ram's free agent program is another great way for me to stay sharp and have a little fun." He's currently at the Chili Bowl and will be the Grand Marshal of the race after winning it twice in the past. Now he's, of course, a top fuel racer in the NHRA for Mopar and runs the Dodge factory program in NHRA for his own Tony Stewart Racing team for his wife Leah Pruitt and multi-time funny car champion Matt Hagan. He will be racing for Elite Motorsports and R&L Carriers this year with the Mopar support. But dovetailing that as well, he'll be driving this free agent truck for Colleague Racing, joining Brendan Butterbean Queen, Justin Haley, and Daniel Dye, along with one driver to be determined in their reality show program that we'll be seeing coming up here in the upcoming weeks. So something to look forward to, seeing Tony Stewart return back to NASCAR. If he can qualify, hopefully they have points to make it in the show. If he can go and give himself a win at Daytona in a truck. Of course, he was never able to win the Daytona 500, but he got very close few times. He won the what is now O'Reilly Auto Parts Series 300 miler at Daytona 7 times or 6 times or whatever. He was up there with the Earnhardts, and so there would be an addition to his trophy case if he could go out there with the Ram program in their first race coming back to NASCAR and get a victory to start off his 2026 season on the right foot, coming off of the regular season Top Fuel Championship. But we'll see what happens with Tony and the Ram program and Colleague Racing throughout the 2026 Craftsman Truck Series season. Long before Dale Earnhardt Jr. signed to drive for Rick Hendrick and Hendrick Motorsports back in 2008, there was once an opportunity, or so he thought, for Mr. H to sign the legendary Intimidator well before he became the Intimidator. Back in 1983, when Rick Hendrick was first looking to start his NASCAR Cup Series operation, he had Dale Earnhardt shake down one of his Chevy Monte Carlos back in those days, and while the noted salesman and car dealer attempted to offer and sign the great driver, Dale Earnhardt chose, after driving 2 years with Bud Moore, coming off of winning one championship with Rod Osterlund back in 1980, to sign with Richard Childress, and the rest, they say, is history. Dale Earnhardt would end up winning 6 Cup Series championship, would be on a run that from 1986 till through 1993, where he won those 6 championships, finished second in the championship a couple more times, won a ton of races, and went from being the guy in the Wrangler jeans car to the man in black when Goodwrench came on board, and we know him as that many years now since his passing. But once upon a time, Dale Earnhardt Sr. could have possibly been a driver at Hendrick Motorsports well before Hendrick Motorsports became what it became. Of course, Jeff Bodine would end up driving that 5 car with Harry Hyde. Things from the rivalry between Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine ended up in the movie Days of Thunder. The character, the owner, that was played by Randy Quaid, was loosely based on Mr. H. So there's a lot of connections that go all the way back to a chance test that Mr. Hendrick had with Dale Earnhardt way back in 1983. And many years later, of course, he got his opportunity to sign an Earnhardt and have a chance to have that name drive one of his vehicles. And of course, the great Dale Jr., who's now become the unofficial spokesperson for the sport and one of the biggest voices in the sport in his retirement, not only as a TV guy but as a car owner and series owner. But what would have happened if Dale Earnhardt had taken a leap of faith way back when in 1983? Would he have won 7 championships? Would Hendrick Motorsports have become even bigger than quicker? With some of the pieces that they had in place back in those days. It's something that we can wonder about now, but we obviously got to see Dale Jr. have an opportunity to drive for Mr. H. He had even at one point signed on a napkin a lifetime contract during a famous weekend, if you look back in the Dale Jr. download as well. So definitely something, food for thought, if Dale Earnhardt had signed with Hendrick Motorsports. But honestly, they had Dale Jr. He won the Daytona 500. He had a couple really great years for them.
It's getting closer, guys. The NASCAR season is getting closer. The Cup cars are out testing at North Wilkesboro very soon. And of course, this is a big season for NASCAR. The regulations are changing. The cars are becoming more powerful. But what can we expect from this preseason test? Here's everything you need to know here on the Motorsport Reports, as always, guys. So NASCAR's new 750 horsepower rules configuration for the majority of Cup Series tracks is set for the first major rehearsal ahead of the 2026 season, with teams turning up on Tuesday of this week for an organizational test session at North Wilkesboro Speedway in North Carolina. One team from each chartered Cup Series organization is expected to participate in the one-day preseason test. North Wilkesboro, of course, is the historic 0.625 mile oval, and it's been brought back to life to host NASCAR All-Star races in all of the last 3 years, creating some very entertaining one-off races during the season. And it will also hold its first points-paying Cup Series race in 30 years on July 19th this year. Now, just a little reminder, if you missed the news back in October, the Cup Series cars are getting a power boost, but not around all tracks. However, it will apply to most circuits this year. Every single road course and every single over track under 1.5 miles long will get the 750 horsepower treatment. For reference, around the other circuits, the super speedways, this will be kept at 670 horsepower, which is what it was for every track this year, just gone in 2025. Now, I'll put the list of all the drivers we can expect from this test, guys, here on the screen for you guys. I'll quickly read them out, of course, going in number order. So Ross Chastain, number 1, will be getting a run out for Trackhouse Racing. Daniel Suarez, car number 7, of course changed from 99 last year, he's going to get a run out for Spire Motorsports. Kyle Busch in the number 8 will be representing Richard Childress Racing. Chase Elliott in the number 9 will be out there for Hendrick. AJ Allmendinger, the Dinger, will be out in number 16 for Cowlick Racing. Chris Buescher in the 17 will be there for RFK Racing. Chase Briscoe will be in the number 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing, Josh Berry in the 21 for the Wood Brothers, 22 Joey Logano for Penske, 38 Zane Smith for Front Row Motorsports, Cole Custer will be in the 41 for Haas, Eric Jones in the 43 for Legacy Motor Club, Tyler Reddick in the 45 for 2311, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the 47 for Hayek Motorsports, and lastly, Cody Ware will be getting an appearance in the Rick Ware Racing number 51. So, there we go, guys. Those are all the things that you need to know ahead of this test. Let me know how you think it's going to go. Will this higher horsepower amount be a success? I think it will, personally. NASCAR wants bigger, louder, stronger, faster, and that basically ticks all the boxes effectively when it comes to that. It's going towards something that people have been reminiscing about. You know, remember when NASCAR was better? Remember when NASCAR had more horsepower? And I think it's also sensible not giving them more horsepower around the super speedways, because that's a whole different situation. But around these slower tracks, around these road courses, these street tracks, these smaller ovals effectively, I think it's a good idea. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys, and we'll see you soon for much more content on the world of NASCAR and a whole lot more here on the Motorsport Reports.